there is need for us to have citizens to come and have this conversation, because this conversation is taking place in the corridors of power, and it is not taking place in the streets where we live, in the villages, and where the citizens are, who are the authors of this constitution. So it is important that citizens not only be involved, but lead in this process. And we know that this process will be done through Parliament, and our experts here will try and explain to us how the process what process will take place, and at what point do we participate, or are we expected to participate as citizens. But we think we need to start now. So this amendment was gazetted on the 31st of December 2019, when all of you and I and many of us were during the holidays at Christmas, were waiting for New Year. It came nicodemously at the end of the year and the beginning of another, when we were concerned about other issues, concerned about bread and butter issues. We want to understand the amendments. We want to know the reasons for the amendments and judge if the amendments seek to further democratization, and decide our position on the amendments as citizens. We have questions that we are asking ourselves, and we've been asking ourselves as civil society and as citizens. Do the amendments further the values of constitutional supremacy and good governance? Particularly, do the amendments respect the sovereignty of the people and the separation of powers? And it is sovereign constitution, you know, does do these amendments meet that need, that requirement? And the amendments, there are about 27 of them, and I think Professor Matuka heard him speaking on the radio yesterday, and he was saying that some of them are just immaterial, they're just changes in words. But we see 27 of them amendments that have been made, and we've been asking, 27 amendments, why? In one go? And where are we as the citizens in this process? And why this huge shift? Does this strengthen our participation as citizens in the governance, or does it signal a further regression to authoritarianism? Should this process be entirely left to Parliament, or does Parliament become stronger or weaker, and does it matter to us anyway? Why are we amending the Constitution? Who is amending the Constitution? Whose Constitution is it anyway? I think these are some of the questions that we have as citizens. So asking these questions will help us as citizens to be able to participate in the process, because there will be other processes that are going to take place. And for that reason, there is need for us to start having these conversations, same citizens. Nekuti pakati kwa Constitution in 2013, about 94%, I think, of the people voted for the Constitution, others voted against it. There were different perspectives on what is the people-driven process, and is the Constitution a product of a people-driven process. But at the end of it all, we have a Constitution that we use, which is the supreme law of the land. So inongo change was right, I say, and it Diana no change, anagaji change, and it there's a good change. Is it no say? Sema citizens, and it ndio muvunzo yatinayo pano ndo zvadavinga pano tichidedza ama experts edu vari pano kuti vatipindurire muvunzo iyi yatinayo. Izvi hatisingozviita pano chete, tichazviita pano, tozvamba tichizviita kumatunhu kwose kwatinenge tichienda, nekuti inyaya hombe, nyaya yebumbiro remutemo, handiti haizi nyaya yemagweta chete, haizi nyaya yemapoliticians chete, in fact itori nyaya yevacitizens chete. Inotitemena kuti tinowana chikafu, inotitemena kuti ndiani ari kutonga, inotitemena kuti mitemo ichawiswa muparliament ndeipi. Saka inyaya yakakosha, and nemawira maita, I think it's evidence that you see the value and the importance of this process. So the process is, this platform is brought to you by Hill Zimbabwe Trust, who work towards building social cohesion in Zimbabwe. The Election Results Center, a think tank body that works towards looking at issues around the constitution, around the elections, and ensuring that we have got elections that are free, fair, and credible, and that people participate in. And also the Crisis Zimbabwe Coalition, which is a coalition of a number of civil society organizations, about 89 of them. And this is the program that we bring to you so that we have this conversation. So we open this process and say, Kati engage. And it, it's not going to have any language, and it is contest yechirungu. And it, the contest yekutaura my ideas, edu mafungiro edu, nekuti bumbiro remutemo nderedu, bumbiro remutemo ndere vana veZimbabwe. Rakawiswa nevana veZimbabwe muna 2013. Nyangwe tine maonero akasiyana pamusoro pebumbiro remutemo. Saka nekudaro ndoda kuvhura process yedu ndobva ndasiya nguva kuna Fadzi kuti azointroduce delegates edu nekutanga process. Tatenda.
Thank you for the welcome remarks. Without much further ado, I just want to honor and appreciate our panel of experts that have given up their time to just share their thoughts and views to help us in the analysis and appreciation of what is currently happening in our context, particularly in relation to the proposed constitutional amendment bill. I would just want to share a bit of their profiles. We would want to welcome Honorable Advocate Pulu, MP from Kulumani constituency. He is also currently the Secretary for Constitutional and Parliamentary Affairs. That's a role that he's holding within Parliament. He was also quite instrumental in the COPAC processes. He was one of the technical experts. The Honorable has also been a chair on a number of civil society boards and organizations. One of them, Zimra, is a politician in Zimbabwe. She's also representing as a legislator, Matabeleland South. She's a human rights activist and an ardent feminist. During the Government of National Unity, she was the chief representative during the Joint Monitoring and Implementation Committee, which was popularly known as JOMIC, and she also participated actively in the COPAC processes as well, especially her particular role was really emphasizing and advocating for the rights of women during that particular time, amongst many other things. Welcome, Honorable Mr. Irambo. We also want to welcome Mr. Jelas Mawarire. He's a politician and currently the spokesperson for the New Patriotic Front. Mr. Mawarire is the Executive Director and Founding Trustee for the Center for Elections and Democracy in Southern Africa, CEDSA, which carries out election monitoring and observation in Southern Africa. Mr. Mawarire, you'd know he was quite popular, especially for a constitutional court case that he did in 2013, challenging the then President Mugabe to set dates for presidential and parliamentary elections by 29th of June without any electoral reforms. We welcome you, sir. Oh, thank you. Just a correction there. Mr. Mawarire is actually a spokesperson for National Patriotic Front. National Patriotic Front. Sorry for that. Please, if you can note that correction. So we want to welcome Mr. Mawarire to this meeting. Last but not least, we also want to welcome and honor Professor Lafmo Maduku. He's a constitutional expert. He was quite instrumental also in the constitutional making process in Zimbabwe. He's well known, especially around constitutional law-related issues. He's also a legal expert and is currently also supporting and working at the USET as a lecturer. If you are interested in issues related to the law, he's one of the gurus, especially in terms of setting the constitutional foundations, especially at the law school. In 2013, he also led a massive campaign dubbed the Vote No campaign. and he is also currently the president of the National Constitution Assembly. I want to welcome you, Professor Madu. If I can call the House to order, because we started late and we want to catch up with time, we want to quickly go into the flesh of this particular meeting. We have rich panelists, and we want as much as we can to draw out from their expertise to understand, like Mr. Mahia said, why amend the Constitution now? Is it important? What is really inspiring the amendment process? What is happening in our context that has actually motivated the amendment process to happen? And is there no other way of dealing with some of the issues in that constitutional amendment bill beyond amending the Constitution? Is there no other remedy at law to deal with some of the mischiefs or the issues that are being dealt with than to amend the Constitution? But also, most importantly, we also want to understand what are these issues that are being amended. Titonzwisisa kuti chii chiri kumbogadziriswa mazviri, zvakatinakirei, zvakatikosherei, kana zvisina kutinakira zvii zvakashatirei. So we want to understand these different perspectives around the Constitution Amendment Bill. My own quick scanning of the bill when I read it was that it is introducing about 22 amendments or 22 new changes that are being proposed. Why so many in this particular context? So without much further ado, if you can allow me to invite to the platform Professor Love Maduku is a constitutional expert to set the pace and the foundation around this particular process.
Thank you very much. I would want to thank the organizers. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to participate in this platform and to discuss the Constitutional Amendment Bill. I will try and do justice to the various hats that I am wearing today. The first hat I am wearing, which I will utilize in the first few portions of my presentation, is the hat of a constitutional lawyer. That's, I think, what they also wanted, and they described it as a constitutional expert. So I will take that up where I speak in that capacity very briefly, and there are points which I will say that these points are coming from me in my capacity as a constitutional expert. They call anyone can be a constitutional expert. I think the only difference that I have here is that my day-to-day work at the University of Zimbabwe in the law faculty is to teach lawyers, upcoming lawyers, a course that we make compulsory in our law degree. And I think two of the speakers there would be my students, Priscilla and my MPs are up. They would go through a course called Constitutional Law. So we teach that course and that so forth. So in that capacity, I will address the meeting. Then I will also address the meeting in my second capacity as Love Maduku, a Zimbabwean citizen. I'll say a few things that will indicate that role. Then I will, in another role, the third role, I will speak for the NCA, a political party. And then that role, I will also speak on that I will indicate where I'm speaking for the NCA as the leader of that party. Then fourthly, I will speak, I found it was very popular, in my capacity as a member of Poland. So I will have those four capacities. They will be combined, and that I think during the interaction, it is possible for you to see that this view or this position is coming from love more Maduku just a Zimbabwean citizen, or love more Maduku an expert, or love more Maduku a leader of the NCA and the NCA, love more Maduku a member of Pollard, and so forth. I'll do that. Now I get to my presentation. I want us to imagine 400 years from today, and assuming that we were an audience that is 400 years from 2030. Or if you are finding very difficult to imagine an audience that is 400 years from 2013, you can imagine an audience that is 100 years away from 2030. Let's put it at 100 years or 200 years. And here I'm very serious about that position that I want us to get into. There are countries where the current citizens of those countries are 100 years away from the making of their constitution, or they are 200 years away from the making of their constitution. Imagine you were an American and you are in 2020 in the United States. You would know that your constitution was made in 1787. Is that clear? Yes. You would know that none of your politicians was involved in the making of the constitution. You would know that. You would know that all of you were not there when the constitution was made. You imagine yourself as a British citizen, and you would know that the foundations of your constitution were in 1688. But there you are, your prime minister is not part of 1688. I think if you put yourself in that position, you would know that your existence as a country is dependent on two sets of laws. There is a law that you call the Constitution, and then there are other laws. You would know that this law you call the Constitution is a higher law. It's a higher law that need not be made every day. It forms the foundation of your society. And the principles that are put in that Constitution ought to live beyond generations. They ought to outlive generations. That's what you would know. And then you would know that when I elect a government, the governments come into place to run the affairs of state on a day-to-day basis. And they will do that by attending to the day-to-day issues of your society. And that it should be extremely rare for those that you elect for a 5-year or a 4-year term to think about amending the Constitution. That's where I start from. Do we agree with that? That is where, from an expert point of view, I want to put across the position from an expert point of view. A constitution is not a simple document that can just be amended at will. It must be somewhat sacred. Now, it doesn't mean that it cannot be changed, but simply that it must be a fairly respectable document which you ordinarily ought not to interfere with. And at the time that when you visit that constitution, you ought to realize that this document has nothing to do with the government of the day. That this document goes beyond governments of the day. That this set of rules must involve virtually all those who are interested in it. Governments come and go, but constitutions ought not to easily come and go. That's from an expert point of view. True, yeah, but the point I want to make, because when you actually put this system, but after that, it sense. Meeting, the first speaker, but somewhat you are getting time to get into the debate. I've made the foundations from an expert point of view. There's a difference between a constitution and any other law. Now, I want to tell you from now, my experience as Love Maduku, a citizen of Zimbabwe. We have a problem with the government we have at the moment in this country, which has been running our country since 1980. They don't respect the view that a constitution is higher than other laws. They take the view that a constitution is like any other law. If I am elected, my first target is the constitution. If I want to show that I am in power, I am in government, I must do something about the constitution. If you are a minister of justice, in the ruling party, it can be to all of the politicians. A constitution, we are in power, we ought to change it. Now in 1997, a group of Zimbabweans, and I'm happy that Priscilla is here, and I pull, I think I got a Biti younger, or but not Priscilla, I don't remember, and a number of people here. We came together in 1997 to found an organization which was premised on the view that a constitution is not just like any other law. That a constitution is above other laws. That the making of a constitution must be different from the making of other laws. And when you want to make a constitution, you must involve the people. And we coined the expression people-driven. It became the most popular expression in this country. More like Zama with the Poland, though people-driven constitution. What did we mean by that? We meant that it's not about what the current constitution is saying, but if you want to do a constitution, involve the people. At the time we founded the organization called the NCA, the National Constitutional Assembly. Then it was civic. So I was a party. But we said at the time, the constitution we had was a Longest House constitution. We had a very strong leader. You know him. He's late. He rests in peace. We don't want to, I just don't want to demonize him. But he got out by former MCA. Panga panem tungamiri agasimba. Ainzi Robert Mkara. Aitotaura imi. Kana tiri mpawa basa redu. Ndene kugadzira mutemo including the constitution. Akazama with people driven. I know address a meeting kuzanu pay headquarters. And I know these things. When we get to research and put them across, I know Mugabe's speeches, very brilliantly made. But they were very clear. Mugabe was clear that we, those who are in government, kokutonga kudi kana tisika kwanisi kuchinja chi constitution. So he would go to a rally. ZANU-PF people would say, vamwe vedu vakaruza, that was in 2000, vachaenda kuparliament, pakafoma opposition ikatora masitsi akawanda. Muna 2000, 57 chichi. Then vanhu vanga varuza ZANU yaramba ichingoita masitsi akawanda 120 chichi zvaitwa kudhara. Vaingoita 1 or 2 vaita opposition, 3 people. Dongo pamwe nani one time. Then vanhu voenda kuna Mugabe, vakuti nzvimbo dzedu dzakatorwa neopposition. Mugabe akati aiwa hazvinetsi, we will amend the constitution. We are going to create a senate. Aitaura ari kuchiredzi kwanga kune rally ikoko. And so open like that. Achitobva kuchiredzi, by the time helicopter yake yakudzika panapa muHarare muno, minister wake wejustice ipapo ainzi Chinamasa anenge akutoendesa amendment yechi the constitution. Is that clear? Mugabe is addressing a meeting of ZANU-PF politicians who are complaining that we have lost and you have won. Says no, we will introduce a senate. Achitaura ari uko kwangu sina inonzi chiko isi messages dzatakushandisa WhatsApp. I don't know vaishanda nechi waitoteererawo paredhiyo kana uri minister waMugabe wejustice. President vataura vari kuchiredzi kuti auda kuamenda. Urikutanga kudrafta bill rekuamenda constitution. Within 4 or 5 days, pananga patwane a gazetted amendment number 9. Apa asaina pananga asaina na Joshua Mbomoti Taita Unit 1987 chichi amendment number 9. So every amendment, yeah, we are on of it that a constitution can just be done or undone as long as we are in it. Kuti vasiyane nepfungwa iyoyo. Tinozwana nani? Tiri kuti kuna AD. Whether we succeed or not succeed, tutaura zvatiri kuita iko. Tiri kuti kuna AD. Siyana nenyaya yaMugabe yekuti constitution inoitwa paunodira. Is that clear? We are saying to the government that is there now, please undo this mentality. Undo this mentality that you can make or unmake a. That's what we are currently seized with that. So please, let me say this. as an expert, a constitution ought not be easy to amend. That's from an expert point. If you then decide to amend it, it must not be the business exclusively of the government of the day. It must go beyond the present parliament, involve as much as possible. And that's what I would say on that. Then I think let me get on and quickly look at this process here. Now I've said that when the NCA was formed as a civic organization, we succeeded in convincing President Mugabe's government, but with a lot of force, a lot of sacrifice, to say to the constitution, Inovaguan, and so forth. Now, Priscilla, Nevamo 1-5, Musua Tagaita a referendum, Muna 2000. Do vakatanga kusungwa vachisungirwa zvereferendum. I think umwacho akushanda kwaID Christ Baptist. I think was part of your idea. Izvezvi ndiye mukuru muofisi yaID anonzi Christopher Baptist. Nana Priscilla nevamwe about 6 they were arrested. Patime yataicampaigner for this. Mugabe had to be forced asiri kuda to accept that there would be a referendum. Are you clear on this? The law in 2000 did not provide for a referendum. Parliament had to be convened to pass the referendums bill, which became the Referendums Act Muna 2000, because of the pressure coming from the NCA and other groups. Is that clear? Kuti matia zvipo, mutemo unoti tikati hakuna zvakadaro. Nyangwe zvisiri pamutemo, zviisei pamutemo kuti constitution inobva kupi kuvanhu. And President Mugabe had to accept. But that was not after pasina arrests, pasina kurohwa. Every time on Twitter, ndona vanhu vanenge vachikondiwanzira vakamboisa picture yandakarohwa vachingodzi aiwa haungosina kurohwa iwo wangongorusaidhi kwezano akarohwa nditsvangirai. That's what they say. I said, my hair was urimkurukuru anozorwa chair kana director, I think director. Vanhu vaunganidzwa nanga mahair vakawanda chisingaita. If tiri panapa tega zvotakaita muno, kana tisingadi bhiri iri, haritombopasa, haritomboita. I know, and that's the truth of Poland. Murukuramba zvaino. Poland. I will, Inzaiga, I have told you that I will speak in all this. So what we are doing there, what I'm saying,
let's have order. The gate was here up here to change the
I'm sorry, my citizens. Can I have to take conversation? That's a great terror. Do democracy at Uganda?
Okay, thank you. I think I must make it clear to you people. I must make it clear. I will not be pushed not to say what I want to say. Yes. And I think that I am going to say what I want to say. And then you have an opportunity to say you don't want to, you have your own views. I cannot come here. I mean, they invited me to express my opinions, not your opinions. All right, so let me make the point. I have said the NCA is now a political party. It has become a political party, which is in Poland. It has pushed its positions.
cannot build a country when you don't respect processes. Comrade in the red t-shirt. Okay. But you are going to get a chance, comrade, to respond. To go now. It's our respect. Thank you, comrade. Thank you, comrade. Let's be quiet. Dissent. Let's respect each other and respect processes. Thank you very much. Because Vakagarabasa conversation thank you very much. Prof, can you?
I will continue. What I'm saying is that we want Zimbabweans able to appreciate the point that no government of the day must be allowed to play around with the constitution. That's what I'm saying. And that when we push for, we use different platforms for that position. And when I choose my own, it's non-negotiable. Comrades and friends. My position is clear. I have been invited here. I'm not just a constitutional expert. I'm a politician. I'm a political actor. I'm a political player. So I will not change my political direction. If someone I come across an audience that is hostile, I'm not supposed to keep addressing it. I should not force myself on you. If you don't want to listen to me, it's up to the organizers. But I cannot be here one. Whether you bring the army here or anyone, you can shout 1,000,000 times. But I'm not going to stop making my point that I believe is beneficial to this country. All right, I will just finish up. The point that I wish to now make, if you look at the proposed amendments that have been put across, I will just pick one example of the amendments, which clearly cannot be accepted to be part of our constitution. It is an amendment related to the judiciary. Every society is based on the notion of an independent judiciary. Judges must be independent. So you look at the way they are appointed and the way they remain in office. The current provision requires judges to go through an interview, which is a public interview, except for the Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice, and the Judge President. That was by amendment number 1. But that amendment actually came against Zimbabweans never took the kind of processes we are taking. And amendment number 1 passed without public involvement, which was taking away public interviews. Then now, the proposal requires to retire at the age of 70 mandatorily, to retire if you are in the Supreme Court or Constitutional Court, to retire at the age of 75. But you don't just retire at 75. Every year from 70, you will submit a certificate of medical fitness to the president. The president will say, if the opinion says it's right, the president has to accept the certificate for the judge to continue in office, but only for a year. Then again, go around 5 years. Zapera. The president may say you are not medically fit, so you don't continue. You are medically fit, you continue. Now that is obviously unacceptable, isn't it? That is in the bill. There is no reason for such an amendment. There is no country that has such an amendment, such a provision now in Southern Africa. Augustina Zagadar. Everyone accepts that when you appoint a judge, then you leave them until vital compulsory retirement. The other one, the president can now promote my judges from High Court to Supreme Court or from Supreme Court to Constitutional Court without a public interview. That again is unacceptable. Is that clear? Priscilla will give you other provisions, and I think Paul will do that like jealous. We can go through each of them, but I would suggest that let us for now, in relation to amendment number 2, not concentrate on the specific provisions. Let's fight one issue for now, that let's not allow the government to proceed in amendment number 2. Let's allow an overall discussion. Yes, some amendments we would want in the Constitution for purposes of making the next elections in 2023 freer and fairer. So you don't allow the government of the day to propose amendments which do not address the things that we believe ought to be addressed. No, you didn't want to hear what we are discussing in Poland. We have already put across in Poland a list of our proposals. We have a document that we will be giving out to those who will receive it. Having made clause for succession, you then say that we will get the president who takes over from the political party of the president. Wangaripo. So Takaitamuna November, we got ED from Norway. He came from a meeting here. Yes, we are saying from Norway as a nation. He came from ZANU-PF. But a political party ought not to be the interest of all of us. Now, it applies not just to ZANU-PF. I know the succession issues are getting away with MDC Alliance. I was. I'm winding up.
Order. Thank you.
All right. The point I'm making.
Okay,
We must not put in our constitution. We must not put in the constitution of the country a provision that is dependent on what happens in a political party. That's the point I'm making. We must never say in our constitution of Zimbabwe that if a sitting president dies or resigns, we will wait to hear what the political party of that president is saying. No, that is not the best way of running a country. Political parties remain the preserves of those people who are in those political parties. But the country is run on the basis of either an election by the people on direct election, or you have parliament as an institution sitting as an electoral college. Where political parties have influence, they must do the influence within parliament, but never to allow a political party to sit there and say, I'm giving you this president, and so forth. That's the point I'm making. And on that point, I'm making it right across the world. That's what they do. So my point is this. This is an opportunity for Zimbabweans to unite, regardless of where you are coming from. To say no to the government of the day tampering with the Constitution. But we agree that the Constitution must be amended in those areas where we want to improve our democracy. It must be amended in those areas where we want to deepen our democracy. It must be amended in those areas where we want to open up space. We in the NCA have so many places in the Constitution we would want opened up before 2023. So that we have a freer election. We have a fairer election. We did say previously, and Priscilla will confirm that, we have discussed the situation where how do we run an election, a presidential election? Who appoints the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission? These things would require an amendment of the Constitution, because as it stands, the president appoints the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. We want a conversation around that. Is this the thing that we still want to see in the Constitution? So if we don't want it, then there must be an amendment of the Constitution. So you cannot say no to an amendment of the Constitution. We are saying no to an amendment initiated by the government of the day. But yes to an amendment that is dominated by the people. That is my contribution.
Thank you so much. If we can quickly invite Mr. Mawalige to also share his perspective. Can I also kindly request the citizens to just respect the presentations? We are going to have a plenary session where if you have comments, questions, you are also able to have your questions noted or your comments also shared within this platform. Zvinobatsira futi kuti satyangwa notakupedza nguva tichita mege zvinoita kuti meeting yedu imbodzokera kumashure. Over to you, Mr. Mawale.
Thank you. I hope I'm not going to talk about the application in 2013, I'm going to talk about the need to amend or to have conversations around the amendment of the current constitution. And the premise is that this is a negotiated constitution. Unfortunately, the constitution was negotiated between two political parties. And some of the provisions within the constitution, three political parties. Mine wasn't there, so I thought there were two. The two big, so-called big ones. So there was that idea that there was contestation between or among the three political parties. And most of the provisions, if you look at them, were politically driven, and some of them contradictory. I'm speaking not as an expert in law, but as a person who has conversed with the Constitution and who has also applied it in the area of elections. I'll talk, for instance, about the provision that Professor Maduku spoke about, where, for instance, when the president is elected, the Constitution or the drafters of the Constitution purported that the president is directly elected by the people. And it's not the party that is elected, it's the president who is elected. But in the event that that president resigns, is forced to resign, or dies in office, the drafters then assumed that it's not the individual who was elected by the people, but the party that he represents. That's why you don't have a by-election when the president resigns, as what happened on the 21st of November 2017. So there is that contradiction. If the president was directly elected by the people, if that president is no longer there, give the people a chance to elect the person who comes after that president. So I think we need to have conversations around that. Do we have a by-election that would involve the whole country, or we have a parliament sitting and electing a president, as Professor Maduku suggested? Then we also have issues about the Constitution, the current Constitution, purporting that we should have gender equality in commissions, gender equality in any government institution, gender equality in any elective institution within the country. And we have seen that we had a provision which did not work, where we had a quota, a women's quota, which expired in the 2018 election. And I think the provision ceases to apply to the election in 2023. But we look at what has it achieved. In the 2013 election, how many women did we have directly elected? In the 210 parliamentary elections, there were 26. In the current parliament, the 9th parliament, we have 25 who were directly elected. Unfortunately, the other one passed on, and the political party from where she was coming from forwarded a male candidate. So now we have 24. And the percentage hovers around 35%, down to 33%. But the Constitution provides that we should have 50-50 representation. So how do we deal with that? From my own reading on electoral systems, I've also stumbled upon a system that ensures 50-50 gender representation, which is proportional representation. And I've only spoken about the 210 directly elected MPs. The situation is even worse when it comes to the 1,958 councillors. The percentage of women elected there is around 12%. So how do we deal with that? And my party proposes that we have proportional representation across all the elections that we have. That will solve the issue of gender representation. That will also solve the issue that is provided for in section 20 of the Constitution on youth representation. Because the party list that political parties will then forward should ensure that we have enough youths on the party list without necessarily going to amendment number 2, where we seek to have a quota system for the youths. I don't believe in a quota system. I believe in everyone being given an equal platform. And the proportional representation, the proportional representation electoral system provides for that. It also gives us a way around one of the envisaged amendments where the president, the current president, is seeking to add onto the number of people that he can appoint as cabinet ministers outside parliament. He wants to increase them from 5 to 7. I think this has been necessitated by the fact that when he was appointed president after the coup, he came on and appointed, oblivious of the provisions of the Constitution, more than 5 people outside the Constitution. So you want to rectify that by amending the Constitution. So we are saying, if you do proportional representation, your party list should cater for gender representation. It should cater for youth representation. It should cater for skills that you are looking for. When you are appointing a cabinet, you don't have a situation where you have 210 elected MPs and you don't even have a lawyer. You don't even have a medical doctor. You end up appointing someone who is not even an anesthetist as a minister of health. And you could see some of the things that were shocking. Someone purported to be having coronavirus, and the minister is there, no protective clothing whatsoever. So that's what you get if you don't have the skills that are required. So let's have conversations around what we can improve in this negotiated constitution that the MD sees in its various formations and ZANU-PF came up with. Let's involve the people of Zimbabwe to discuss the issues that they think can be amended. But we don't want a situation where if someone is afraid of Chiwenga, he says, no, I don't want a running mate. Because Chiwenga would kill me and would take over after me. So in order for me to circumvent that, let me change the constitution so that I appoint a subservient deputy. No, that's not a principle that we think we should entertain as citizens, as political players, not political actors. So we should also look at in refusing some of the amendments that are being promulgated by amendment number 2. The amendment number 2 bill. You look at especially the issue about the judges, the Supreme Court judges, about the High Court judges, the president wanting to appoint those ones, and also wanting to extend their terms of office beyond the prescribed 70 years. It's very clear why they are doing it. They've compromised the judiciary after the coup. They don't want the burden of starting to compromise new people, so they would rather carry on with those that are already compromised. So the easiest way, now that they are seeking, is to amend the constitution so that they remain with Malala, they remain with all the other judges that were compromised. We have judges that presided over an application that the coup was constitutional. I've never seen a constitutional coup because what I know in any coup that I've read about is that the first thing that you subvert is a constitution. we have heard Honorable Scala being arrested for suggesting that we should remove ED. And some of the people that at the forefront say, you cannot remove a constitutionally elected president. We're the ones that were at the forefront in November 2017 removing a constitutionally elected president. And you wonder, do we read the same constitution? So those are the issues. And I would like to believe that as Professor Maduku said earlier on, let's take the opportunity, seize the opportunity that has been opened up about these purported amendments to start the discourse on amending the negotiated constitution that we have. But let's not allow ZANU-PF to run with the agenda for amending the constitution. Whether they do that in Poland or what, let's resist that, even outside Poland. I would like to believe that we have various platforms through which we can engage. You can even engage on Twitter. We don't need to be at State House. We don't need to be at Poland. We don't need to be given scones by Maim Nangagwa to discuss. We can begin to make those conversations in platforms like these, on Twitter, in our political parties, and in Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mawagede, for your presentation. I would like to also now invite Honorable Pulu just to also share his perspective on the issues.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to recognize my fellow speakers, Professor Maduku, Honorable Priscilla Mshonga, my fellow parliamentarian, Mr. Jelas Mawarire, all of whom have been in this struggle for a long time. I'd also like to recognize, I see we have Honorable Vincent Shangarai, one of our fellow MPs. Thank you for coming to follow public discourse. Now, public discourse is very important. I mean, I've lived my life really following public discourse. Public discourse has built me up. It has made me who I am. It has made me able to listen to different views. One of the people that I disagree with the most of the times is actually Professor Maduku. But he's one of my very, very, very good friends. One of the lawyers I would call if I was, in trouble or needed assistance or help. But we do lock horns also a lot of times. And the interesting thing is that we agree a lot on philosophy. Our philosophy is the same. If you look at Honorable Priscilla there, our philosophy is the same. But then there's a point where we differ. And I think the introduction was quite apt to say I'm going to speak as a constitutional expert. Started a campaign to vote no against the Constitution. I'm sure it has been done before. I remember the vote no, Constitution that we had. Professor Maduku is quite right. I was a young man running around at the time. But you see, these are the formative years. This is what forms your views. And it would be very surprising that if I were to do a U-turn on those views now. So let me unpack it for you. Firstly, as someone who has an interest in constitutions, because I know that a lot of you will not read the entire document, may not even be able to access it. Now, fortunately, there's a rundown that they give you in the memorandum. I'm sure that by telling you what is in the Constitution, you'll be able to formulate your own views on whether You think this constitutional amendment is good, you think it's genuine, you think it's coming from a good place or it's coming from a bad place. The First Amendment talks about the running mate. So the current president, Idi Mnangagwa, says, I will abolish the running mate. He wakes up and says, I will abolish the running mate. It's a masterstroke that he has one day. Why do you think he's abolishing the running mate? You think he's abolishing the running mate because it's for the benefit of Zimbabwe? No. Zimbabwe sat down during the constitutional making process. And I'd like to say that the constitutional making process was not really a process run by three parties. Of course, it was heavily influenced by three parties. I mean, we accept that. But if you are a constitutionalist, if you are someone who sticks to the constitution, you'll also understand that it was run by COPAC, which was a parliamentary committee, a special parliamentary committee, set up for that purpose. So it was run by a national institution. And the people of Zimbabwe who were consulted widely, were consulted on this very question. It is one of the questions which was there. It's an overwhelming view that you find in the reports relating to the COPAC process. To say that we are tired of vice presidents who get appointed willy-nilly. We are tired of vice presidents who are appointed by the president. We are also tired of two or more vice presidents. The people of Zimbabwe said they are fed up with that. This was one of the key things in the constitutional process. And as you will see, that the issue of succession that Mawarde talked about, I think was considered by the people in this constitution. Remember that the current setup where the president appoints the vice president and where the successor will come from the party is really a process that is going on from now. I think from 2023 we're going to have a new process where the president was going to be enjoined as he goes into an election to say, look, I'm going to pick so-and-so. He is going to be my running mate in this election. So it is going to be a campaign between Joe and John. And when the public elect a president, they exercise their minds on who they are electing as president, and they also exercise their mind on who they are electing as vice president. And once that is done, should the president become indisposed, the public had come up with a mechanism on who succeeds him. It was only in the case of an independent president where one of the vice president or the vice president who was acting at the time, or the current vice president would have been appointed, to succeed him. I think it's quite neat. But for you to then say we want to abolish that, I mean, let's assume it's bad. Let's assume it's not even a neat arrangement. The one reason why we respect constitutions is not because we think they are neat or they are perfect. The American Constitution is far from perfect. They cry about it every day. But it is our grand norm. If it is the highest law in the land, we must respect it for what it is, and we must try and initiate the changes whilst respecting the essential provisions of the Constitution. And it is only in the rare circumstances that we should change the Constitution. I'll tell you, there's a lawyer who said, and this was made popular by American Supreme Court Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg. He says, in interpreting laws or in making laws, a judge must not be concerned about the weather of the day. This is the takeaway from my speak. Write this one down. He must not be concerned about the weather of the day. He must not be affected by the weather of the day. Because the weather changes. But certainly we have to accept that he will be affected by the climate of the era. So I will suggest to you that there are weather issues. Then there are climatic issues. A climatic issue for me is something like gender. Our gender issues, I mean, they color the entire world today. They shape the philosophy everywhere you go. These are big issues that we have been discussing for a long time. The thing about climatic issues is that we have been discussing them for a long time, such that when we suggest changes, they're hardly ever surprising to anyone. There are issues to do with governance. We know that our country is a country we have a governance crisis in Zimbabwe. That's the key. Our crisis is a governance one. And a governance crisis manifests itself by tearing up constitutions. Yes. Whenever you think that you have a view which is superior to that of the constitution or which is better, and then you take it upon yourself to say, I will change it, even in the face of the people having spoken. So this is just one example. Another example is the appointment of the Prosecutor General. I'll avoid examples that have been cited by others. So the president has decided, I'm just going to appoint I want to appoint the Prosecutor General now. The Constitution, the Prosecutor General was appointed by the president in a similar manner in which the judges are appointed. That means he went through public interviews. I'm sure you all saw the public interviews where they were all, interviewed. And I'm sure you know what happens in the corridors. And that makes you happy, it makes you part of the process. He wants to close that window that allows you to look into the process. He says, I want to wake up and just appoint this person myself. It's not even on the recommendation of the JSC, but they say, look, you can refer to the JSC, but ultimately he just makes the pick. So he's taking us back to the 2013 Constitution. I'm not proposing that this Constitution is perfect. That is not the issue. We should not find ourselves debating whether the Constitution is perfect. The question is, do we respect the Constitution? Once we start tearing it up now, where are we going to stop? There are other issues to do with elections, and I'm going to explain to you what the philosophy. Delimitation. There was a mechanism put in to say, okay, fine, do delimitation once every 10 years, but only after a census. There was a reason why that was done. But because we are making amendments looking at 2023, this constitutional amendment is being made looking at 2023. This kind of clause becomes inconvenient. So we must tear it up. Chiwenga is challenging me, or there are rumors about Chiwenga challenging me. So I must tear up the Constitution. If you look through the tenor of the amendments, they tend to strengthen the president and they weaken the judiciary. They weaken the Prosecutor General. They weaken everyone else. And so I would submit that this amendment is a symptom of an illegitimate president who is attacking the Constitution. A legitimate president would not attack the Constitution.
Oh, yes.
So you are seeing the evidence of the illegitimacy is in how you treat the Constitution.
Exactly.
The matter is coming to a head. We are consolidating the coup. So there was the coup. Then there was the stolen election. Now there is the consolidation of the power, of the stolen power. So we are consolidating. So the coup, really sets off the illegitimacy. The manner the election was conducted, compounds the illegitimacy. The amendment consolidates the illegitimacy. If you look through history, it's quite natural. It's in line with what all dictators do. They amend the Constitution to entrench themselves. Exactly. They amend the Constitution in order to witch hunt. Exactly. Now, this is our position. I haven't covered all the clauses. I would have loved to. If it was a workshop setting, perhaps we would have gone through all the positions, but I realized that is not possible because of the time. But this is what is being done. And so what is our position as the MTC? And here is a problem. You have a problem of a fish. If you've ever seen a fisherman throws in a hook, he will never catch the fish. But if he puts a worm on the hook, he is guaranteed to catch the fish. The fish has a very small brain. The fish thinks the worm is very sweet, it's very nice. So it will tell you, well, the hook was bad, but the worm was nice. The fish is able to distinguish if it survives. But an intelligent human being should not be like the fish. He should be able to say that a worm that comes masking a hook must be rejected. And so you have clauses to do with devolution. Our position is that devolution should simply be implemented.
Yes.
We don't need to resort to these amendments. But of course, if you look at the amendment, you may think, well, this makes sense, that we need to nibble at the worm. We must reject the constitutional amendment number 2, hook, line, and sinker. Hook, line, and sinker. If there are any genuine amendments that we feel ought to come back, then those amendments will come as closed respectably and respectfully. In fact, there hasn't even been time to debate some of the key issues. Some of the good things that we may want, as the other speakers have said, there hasn't been time to debate them. We wake up suddenly, people are starving right now. We have got a multi-tier pricing system that we can't answer to. We've got coronavirus, people have no food, food is being weaponized, the government hasn't recognized that people in towns are starving, so all the aid goes to rural areas, they ignore the people in towns. We've got all these problems that we should be solving. Suddenly you want us to be debating the amendment of the Constitution. Our proposal is that we must reject the entire document. Yes. There will be time to talk about the climatic issues, the issues of the era, like gender, like devolution, and all the other issues. There will be time. The time, I suppose, the time is now. But we haven't even implemented this document. Let's implement it. Learn lessons. Come back. Talk about these amendments. So our position in a nutshell is that we reject the amendment. We are going to be arguing in a manner that we will be rejecting the amendment, hook, line, and sinker, and we will be calling it out for what it is. You wouldn't believe some of the things, that I have to talk about this one. Clause number 23. Clause number 23 basically is an excuse to justify agreements entered into between the government and the cartels out there. They basically want to sell the country. There's a clause which says you can't sign an agreement which imposes a debt or obligation on the country with an international organization or a foreign organization or entity. So they're now saying, no. Let's say we can't sign with an international organization that involves 2 or more countries, or, an entity that involves 2 or more countries. But these entities that involve China only, we must be able to sign and borrow as much. The problem with borrowing is that it mortgages you and your children. Me who borrows, I'll be dead by the time you want to pay back. So we want to sell our country to other nations. And we said, this is just one of the things, and the list is endless. This document I would characterize it as a dangerous document, a document formed in the mind of someone who is illegitimate and who is trying to deflect from the crisis of governance that we have in the country. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. I will quickly invite Honorable Mr. Igambri to also give us a perspective of the Constitution.
Thank you very much for inviting me. But let me start by saying this. Every one of the speakers came and introduced the hat that they are putting on, I guess, in their order of priority. My order of priority is that I'm a feminist. And because I'm a feminist, I don't like getting into a space where I deliberately put myself up to abuse. I come into a space that I choose to engage and engage respectfully. And I think I said that to the organizers, that if that is my first
Let's have order. Let's have order.
It is fine. If the general view, that's fine. That is fine. And you can take, if the general view is that we sit here to be abused, that is okay.
I'm sorry, my citizens. I'm sorry, my citizens. I'm sorry, comrade. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mr. Shout, talk me down. And then, comrades, talk me down. Talk me down. Talk me down. I'm sorry, comrades. Yvonne, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Tukumirawo order to concept a conversation. Yvonne, Tukumirawo order. Teacher conversation. Thank you very much. So I think it's very clear. Let's allow the honorable member to speak. I'm sorry. Yes, thank you very much.
Dr. Maduk started from the point of a history in terms of
Hello. I'm sorry. Comrade. Let's behave. Let's sit down. Thank you. We understand the issues of the constitution, emotional issues.
No, it's not about the constitution actually. It's about misogyny, it's about patriarchy, it's about sexism. It is not about the constitution. It is actually said that we are sitting here as a group of people and purporting to want to be democratic, and yet in our whole hearts we are mobocracy, we are psycho, we are misogynist.
Hey, comrades. Can we sit down? Can we sit down? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's better than Zambia. You say you're better than Zambia. You're worse than Zambia.
Order, my comrades.
No. We are not ready to let people who say
my comrades.
Sorry, my comrade. Sorry.
But you have a simple request.
Let's try and all settle down, okay? Let's all settle down. All right, thank you, comrade. Thank you. Right, my comrades, we need to go to our chairman. Hello, hey, sorry, Kubebo, please. Hey, what about Franca now? Comrade, Chimomira. Aiwa, comrade, come on. Hey, tinoziva tiri kupiwa maorder. All right. Let me just explain one thing, please. Hey, up, please, my front up. Yes, I get it, but for now to proceed in the meeting here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please.
Hello, my comrades. Let's go. Let's try to at least get through this program. I think the idea is that we cannot agree with everything that everyone is saying. No, wait. Wait. Let me finish what I'm saying, okay? Let's get through this program. We do not need to confirm the worst of behaviors. We are invited guests at this program. We respect Crisis Coalition. We respect the presenters. They have set up this program. They've allowed us to articulate ourselves. Let's behave in a manner that they will be able to continue providing these platforms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mafume. I told you I'm a feminist. And I want to repeat, in fact, feminism is at the center of this constitutional amendment. If you don't know that feminism is at the center of this particular amendment, then we have a problem. And this is why I started by the issue of feminism. And I wanted to go back to the issue that when Dr. Madugu speaks to a process, it is something that we need to learn from. Because when we mobilized for a constitution in 1997, it was not because we were all agreed. We had different views, which is why we had some that went to the commission, which was being organized under the auspice of the then government. Some of us decided that we were going to go with the NCA, and even within the NCA, we even had differences because we could not deal with the males that were in NCA and some of our issues, which is what gave back to the Women's Coalition. And that's why I started on the basis of the issue that I'm a feminist. I'm a feminist because fundamentally, the reason why I disagree with some of the issues that are in this constitution is because they are taking away my right to express fully in the manner that I want to. And I will speak about that. And I'll say it that if you want to engage, we need to engage on the basis of a foundational principle. The foundational principle being that if you are going to defend the right, freedom of expression, and association, which is what is in this constitution, and which is what we want to debate here and say, is any of this stuff taking away fundamentally from the freedom of expression, then you need to give me the right to express myself. and I give you the right to express yourself. But we can't behave as if we are people that can't engage at all. Then we might as well keep the system that is there. If that system is fundamentally wrong, it is fundamentally wrong because we are saying it is not giving us an opportunity to be involved in this process. Not for us to agree with them or for them to agree with me. I want to defend the right with my blood for ZANU-PF to stand up here and defend the position that they're having. Because that's how we build a nation. We don't build a nation by creating a choir of a people. There would be absolutely no use for Heal Zimbabwe to invite us here if they thought that all the positions that were going to be put here would be the same. Then it doesn't become an intellectual discourse. Why are we sitting in here and engaging? So that is my point. Then let me allow me. You will have an opportunity to do so. Allow me to continue. Allow me to continue. One of the things that we keep talking about, and it's okay if one wants to be ZANU-PF, it's okay, it's not a crime. Which is why some people went and congratulated Nangagwa after the coup. So please, let's not go there. Let's not go there. Facts are sacrosanct. And I want to take on both my brother Upul around the issue that he was raising to say, but this was more of merely just the issue of parliament. Let's admit it was a real negotiation. And if we don't admit that this constitution came out of a negotiated process, we will lose the things that we want to talk about. Let's just look at the running mate, my brother Pul. The reason why the running mate did not kick in 2013 is that it was put in our schedule of the constitution as a transitional mechanism. Precisely because there were disagreements around those issues. And I think let's be factual and let's be honest, that even as the negotiations around this constitution were happening, there were issues that were not resolved. And the reason why I'm going to that point, I'm trying to get us to say it may be dangerous, and it may be, you may not agree with this view, it may be dangerous to automatically merely say we disagree completely. Because if we do that, we lose the opportunity to begin to say the opportunity in here is to look at the electoral reforms. The opportunities that are available is that let's look at the opportunity to bring in the electoral reforms. The critical things that we are having. You have just proven one point. And I hope the media is looking at that. Munotyisa, autorizani kunotyisa because no behavior is obedient. So I was going to say, let's use the opportunity for this. Let's use the opportunity for this discussion to say to ourselves, what are the fundamental problems that this country is facing? I think we can't run away from the fact that the electoral disputes are a fundamental issue. So if we are going to have constitutional amendments, surely let them come and be built up from issues that we are raising, which are electoral reform issues. And which is why I then agree with the other three presenters. We can't push for this particular amendment unless it is bringing fundamental changes to the process. If we are going to have the issue around the 50-50, I agree with Jealous. Let's change the electoral system. Let's just go for proportional representation. That way we are able to say the women, people with disability, and all the other marginalized groups can then be on the list. But most importantly, proportional representation provides for us to ask the question, should we continue with the presidential election? In my opinion, in the opinion of my colleagues in Poland, we do not need a presidential election. It has created enough problems for us. Let's get rid of it. If you look in the region, the countries that have presidential elections that are separate from constituency elections, to which they have set kind of problems that we have in this country. And I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
We are going to briefly have a video presentation that is just going to show some of the issues that citizens have been concerned about, if it is ready. Whilst the presentation is being viewed, if you have any questions that you may want panelists to respond to, please note them down. You also just have some people to just pick up your questions so that they can prepare some responses. If you have any question, just write it down. You can show by lifting up your paper so that we can take them, so that the panelists can be able to respond to your critical questions soon after the video is flighted. Vane mubvunzo tiri kuti nyorai pasi kuitira kuti vanoda kana muchida kuti